So what happens when you mix digital art, a tidal wave of internet hype, and, well, billions of dollars? You get one of the wildest, most controversial stories of the last few years, the story of the non-fungible token. All right, let's dive into this absolute roller coaster of digital gold and, well, digital dust.
It all kind of kicked off with this one number, $69.3 million. In March of 2021, that was the jaw-dropping price somebody paid at a Christie's auction for a single piece of digital art by an artist named Beeple. And just like that, NFTs exploded from this tiny niche corner of the crypto world into a full-blown global craze.
And wow, did it ever take off. The market went vertical. In 2021, the total trading for NFTs hit a staggering $17 billion. Now, to give you some perspective, the year before, in 2020, it was just $82 million. That's a growth of over 21,000%. It was insane. The digital gold rush was officially on.
But what was really going on here? Was this the dawn of a new era for art and digital ownership? A total revolution? Or was it just a classic speculative bubble, fueled by pure hype and a fear of missing out? To figure that out, we gotta first understand what these things actually are. So what on earth is a non-fungible token? The name sounds super complicated, right? But the idea behind it is actually pretty simple once you break it down. Let's start with that first part, non-fungible. Okay, think of it like this. Something fungible can be swapped for an identical item. A dollar is a dollar. You don't care which specific dollar bill you have, they're all worth the same. But something non-fungible is unique. There's only one original Mona Lisa. You can't just swap it for another one. It's one of a kind. And that uniqueness, that's the whole point.
And that's where the token part comes in. The NFT is basically a digital certificate of authenticity for an item. It's a unique entry on a blockchain, which is just a super secure public digital ledger. You can think of the blockchain like a global notary. It permanently stamps a record of your ownership that's copied on thousands of computers worldwide, making it pretty much impossible to fake or alter.
And you know, this didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The first ever NFT was actually created way back in 2014. But things got wild in 2017 with a game called CryptoKitties. People were spending millions of real dollars trading these unique digital cats, and it got so popular, it actually jammed up the entire Ethereum network. That craze is what led to the ERC 721 standard in 2018, which is the technical rulebook that made the huge 2021 boom possible.
So, with the technology in place, the floodgates just burst open. Artists, musicians, celebrities, big brands, everyone wanted in. They saw this brand new way to sell digital stuff and connect with their fans. This was the absolute peak of the hype.
And the creativity was all over the place. It wasn't just JPEGs. You had digital art collections like CryptoPunks selling for millions. NBA Top Shot turned amazing basketball highlights into digital trading cards. People were even selling in-game items, digital fashion, even classic internet memes. The girl from the Disaster Girl meme sold it as an NFT for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It felt like literally anything digital could be turned into a unique asset you could own.
But if you want the perfect snapshot of just how crazy the mania got, look no further than this. The very first tweet ever sent, just 5 words, just setting up my Twitter, was sold as an NFT for almost $3 million. And you have to ask, why? Well, for the buyer, it was about owning a piece of internet history. It was a bet that digital scarcity could create real, lasting value.
But you know what they say? What goes up must come down. And man, did it come down hard. The crypto winter of 2022 arrived, the economy got shaky, and all these speculative assets like NFTs were the first things people dumped. The collapse was fast, and it was absolutely brutal.
The numbers here tell the whole story. Remember that $17 billion market in 2021? Well, by May of 2022, the daily sales volume had plunged by over 92%. The digital gold rush was over. And a lot of people were left holding assets that were suddenly worth almost nothing. And the floor just kept dropping out. A report in September 2023 felt like the final nail in the coffin. It analyzed thousands of major NFT collections and found that a shocking 95% of them had a market value of 0. The bubble hadn't just burst. For most people, it had completely vanished. And hey, remember that $2.9 million tweet? Well, in 2022, the owner put it back up for sale. They were hoping to get $48 million for it. You want to know what the highest bid was? $280. From almost $3 million to $280? I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything, I don't know what does. So,
what the heck happened? Why did it all fall apart so spectacularly? Well, once the dust settled and the hype died down, all the fundamental flaws and risks of the market were just impossible to ignore anymore. Let's take a look at the anatomy of this thing.
Okay, one of the biggest issues was what ownership actually meant. See, buying an NFT didn't give you the rights that most people assumed it did. The record on the blockchain had no real legal standing. It usually didn't grant you the copyright to the image, and this is the big one, it did absolutely nothing to stop anyone from just copying and pasting the digital file. And this became the rallying cry for critics, the whole right-click and save argument. If anyone in the world could download a perfect, identical copy of the art for free, what exactly did the NFT owner have? For a lot of people, the answer was, well, not much more than a receipt on a public database, kind of like digital bragging rights.
Bill Gates, he did not mince words. He called the whole thing 100% based on greater fool theory. And that's the idea that you only buy an overvalued asset because you're betting you can find an even greater fool to sell it to for a higher price later. It suggests the value wasn't based on anything real, just on pure speculative hope.
And for the average person putting money in, the risks were just massive. The prices were unbelievably volatile, swinging wildly based on a tweet or some random social media trend. Most NFTs had no actual use in the real world, and the unregulated market was a playground for manipulation, like pump and dump schemes, where insiders would hype up a project, then sell all their holdings and crash the price.
And yeah, wherever there's that much money and hype, you're going to find scams. The space was a breeding ground for bad actors. You had artists whose work was just flat out stolen and sold without their permission. You had fraudsters pretending to be famous artists like Banksy. And then you had rug pulls, where a development team would launch a project, take everybody's money, and just disappear.
So we're left with the big question. What was all this? Was the NFT boom a real glimpse into the future of digital ownership? A true technological revolution that just got way ahead of itself? Or was it just a 21st century version of tulip mania? A classic bubble, driven by hype and herd behavior, destined to be remembered as a cautionary tale. You know, the technology itself is still here, but its legacy, that's a story that's still being written.